Okay, and good morning on this Thursday, rainy, wet. I think that's what we can anticipate morning. Good
Yes.
morning, Cheryl.
How are you this morning?
Good, good. We have Cheryl Braswell with us, Your Money, Your Life. A lot of you, a couple of you said something to me about it, so voila, here he is. We're gonna go fast this morning into the weather, and then we will come over to Cheryl and talk about, well, I guess we'll go ahead and do Your Money, Your Life since we're on this, yes.
Okay.
And then we'll do the weather after this. We'll be a little
Okay.
bit late with Mr. Fred this morning, but that's okay. That gives him a little bit more time. So, Your Money, Your Life. And we're gonna talk about life insurance again.
Yes, ma'am. Last time I was here, we talked about term life insurance, and about second half of that, today we're gonna talk about whole life insurance. And I'll do a little recap on the term to remind us there. With term insurance, you're basically renting insurance for a period of time.
Right.
And you have a premium, which does not, well, if you set it up properly, your premium does not change over time. Your death benefit is constant over that period of time. So, a lot of people will get a 20 to 30 year term policy, and they'll use it for, young family doesn't have a lot of cash flow going on. They can get a lot of term insurance very cheaply, and if the primary breadwinner, dies, then that provides, most times tax-free money to that survivor to help take care of that family.
Exactly.
And to give them time to get their, self-situated to where they can, move on from that. And it's very inexpensive. It is very cheap.
Right.
So that's your big thing. The downside to term insurance is, you get a 30-year term policy. Well, when that 30 years is up, you may have been paying $400 or $500 a year for, $500,000 worth of term insurance. But now to renew it's going to cost you $7,000 a year.
Exactly, because you are older.
Right,
And
you are
life
much older.
insurance, unfortunately,
That's right.
is charged by age.
By age, because obviously the older you get, the likelihood of you dying is getting a little closer.
Yes,
a little
yes,
closer.
and that's the way it
that,
works.
that's the basis of how that works. Today I'm going to talk about whole life insurance, and whole life is a type of permanent insurance. There are 4 or 5 varieties of permanent insurance. Each one has its own little nuances, and from my viewpoint, I see certain situations where I think this type may work better. And I'll put in a quick plug here. That's one of the things that I really pride myself on, is looking at the situations that a client has and then tailoring what we need to do to that situation.
Right.
Because it doesn't make any difference what type of insurance you have. If it's not properly constructed, properly put together for your situation,
Right.
it's going to be a piece of junk in the long haul.
Right.
And we've got a lot of experience doing this, and we know how to put it together so it works for your situation and gets you the best outcome we can do. So let's get into whole life a little bit. The major components of whole life, obviously you have a premium to pay. You have a death benefit, just like we did with the term. The added feature with a whole life policy is you have the ability to build cash value in that
Correct.
policy. Okay, now let's break it down a point at a time. We've got a premium just like we did with term. but it's a lot higher. It's gonna be a lot higher, and obviously it's based on your age, when you're coming in, and also the amount of coverage that you're setting up for yourself. Your premiums are gonna be constant. They're not gonna change over time. Your death benefit, again, properly arranged, your death benefit can increase over time. Okay, again, it depends on how you have it set up. And you have a cash value savings component. Okay. So, your coverage, your premium's higher. Your coverage is for life. As long as you're paying your premiums, you're going to have that coverage. Now, there are, again, nuances, ways a policy can be put together. So you're basically paying your premium over a shorter period of time. You're paying a higher amount of money for a shorter period of time, and you have a, quote, paid up policy earlier than,
Right.
than paying it till you're, till you die.
So, remind me, Cheryl, because I used to be in this world.
Mhm.
So it does not go out at 90, even 100. Whole life just goes until you die.
Correct. Yeah. Now, let me say that back
Age
to you.
does not
Yeah.
matter.
Let me say this back to you. Let's say, well, I had a guy in here just a few weeks back, and he's 55, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And so we set up a policy on him, and his premium's going to be constant till the day he dies. He's planning on paying this till he dies. His amount of insurance is gradually going to go up over time. It's going to gradually increase.
Right.
But his premium's going to stay constant over that period of time.
Right.
So does that answer your
Yes,
question
that
there?
answers
Okay.
my question.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's see. I'll give you this example too of things that you can do with a whole life policy. I had a gentleman who was in his 70s, came in, and he literally had 5 old whole life policies. I mean, 3 of the 5, the companies didn't exist anymore.
Right.
You know,
Right.
They had been bought up over time by other companies. And he was currently paying about $250 a month premium on his old policies. His face amount of insurance was like $58,000, I think, was what the amount was.
Right.
And here's what we did for him. He was not in perfect health, but he didn't have any real major issues. So we took all of his policies, rolled them over into one. In those, did a what's called a 1035 exchange into one new policy, and we were able to move him from $58,000 worth of insurance to $84,000 worth of insurance, and we completely eliminated the premium that he was paying every month.
Wow.
So,
Okay.
that's the type of things you can do.
Right.
And because he did, his estate, fortunately for him, had grown over time. He did need, he had a reason to use that insurance, that he wanted that death benefit for a reason.
And that's the good thing about coming to somebody like you, Cheryl, is because, and by all means, when you come, bring all your papers.
Yes.
Bring your papers. Don't have to go back, But anyway, we don't know all the options.
No.
And
And-
there are so many options, and
Yeah.
that's your job.
Yeah, and I run into this situation. I will talk to somebody on the phone, and of course I tell myself don't assume anything, but I always do. You sit and you start thinking,
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
this is probably going to be an idea to work on for them.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they come in and we have that, I call it the exploratory conversation,
Mm-hmm.
where I just start asking questions about their whole situation. And sometimes somebody asks, well, why do you need to know that? And I'll just say, please bear with me. And I think you'll see why, we're gonna talk about this, and why I'm asking you these things now.
Right.
And, and that's what I do with everybody. I get in talking about what we're going on, what you have going on overall, and then I can give you options that are relevant to what your situation is. Because, I've had situations where somebody came in and they were looking at, changing what they had, and after hearing their story and looking at what they had, I was just kind of like, well, no, John, I think you seriously need to sit right where you are.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Now, and at the same time, what I can tell you from just, experience and having been done this, I like to sit down with somebody and just, I say, let me do a review for you. Let me look at what you have.
Sure.
And then see, because things change. Obviously policies, there's different types of insurance out there now that were not there, 30 years ago. And by doing that, we have found out literally that 95% of the time, I can put you in a better position than you are today.
Mm-hmm.
So it's worth, I do not charge for that initial consultation. And we found, we've been able to help almost everybody who comes through the door. At the very least, now when you walk out of here, you know what you got.
Right.
And what it's going to do. And hopefully you feel better
Absolutely.
than you did when you came in the door.
And before you come, when you're coming to you want to get your money's worth out of your free consultation. So write your questions down, because you're going to get in there. I do that, and oh gosh, what was I going to ask? I had something I really needed to ask. Write your questions down too.
Yes.
And
because
I
have a list when you sit down with me. I have a list. I don't sit there and just start writing, taking notes. I have a list of things I want to make sure I touch on.
Right.
Again, from past experience, the things that tend to help us make an intelligent, conversation and a good product for that individual. With the whole life, your premiums are going to be constant. Again, we mentioned that your premiums are going to stay the same over time, and so you're not going to have an increase 25 years down the road when you really probably need it.
Right, exactly.
a lot more. You don't want to have to go into the term mode where you're going to be paying a heck of a lot more. I looked at a term policy I had, and 10 years ago maybe, I converted that policy over to a permanent policy. And if I had not done that, it would be running out right now.
Sure.
And my cost to get half the amount of insurance that I had on that term policy was going to be $687 a month.
Wow.
That is not pocket change.
No. No.
So I was glad I did convert over to the permanent policy.
So do you recommend whole life if somebody is trying to just buy a death benefit?
No. And again, Sandra, you got to look at, I will ask them.
And I know everybody's different.
Yeah.
Everybody's case is different.
And so, I would have to ask that person, tell me why you want this.
Okay.
What do you need it for? Because, I've had situations where, I thought an individual had a good policy in place, but they had additional debt that was going to be kind of for a period of time.
Right.
They had a 15-year mortgage, like guy's got a business debt. There's a partnership there, and they have a insurance policy to pay in the event of a death. For the next 8 years, we've got this loan out there for the business. And so, they have a $500,000 loan out there. So let's put a $500,000 10-year term policy on both partners. And that way, if one of them dies, they have, excuse me, they have the money to pay that debt off with, and give them a little wiggle room there in operations. So that's when you need, a term policy whole life. Again, if it's properly constructed, a whole life policy can be an excellent way to build additional retirement funds.
Right.
Now, I know there's some folks out there who are like, oh, no, you shouldn't do that. But I really and truly, believe in what I say about that because of the guarantees that are there, and tax ramifications, things of that nature. I really, truly see this as a good vehicle in a lot of circumstances. And again, it's just, that's where you gotta sit down and talk about it.
Exactly.
And understand the person's situation.
Yes.
To know what to do. Another feature with whole life, for the, while you're, in your process of life, you may run into a situation where you need, a few $1,000s for whatever period of time. And, let's say I've got a whole life policy and I've built up $25,000 in cash value in there. Well, I can borrow the money, again, you're borrowing it from yourself.
Right, that's right.
And I can get myself a loan with no credit check. I don't have to fill out I gotta fill out one piece of paper.
Right. Very minimal.
Yeah, very minimal. And if someone calls me and said, hey, Cheryl, I need to get $5,000 out of my policy, it takes me about 10 or 15 minutes to fill out the form for them. They'll sign it and boom, we shoot it off. We email it to the company and they have it now, and the money's in that person's account within 5 or 6 days.
Right.
And it's just a lot less
Headache.
Really, yeah.
Yes.
And
Yeah, borrowing against a policy like that
Yeah.
is very simple, like you said.
Yeah,
and
it's very simple.
it can
and
be a very good
it can
thing.
be a big help. It can be a big help to you. So that's again, that was a high level view, folks, of a whole life policy. If you come give us a call, the number of our office is 252-316-8166. We're at 880 Country Club Road. We're right across the street. We're at the corner of Hunter Hill and Country Club, right across the street from Pizza Inn. And if you're looking at the buildings, I call them the business condos on the corner. We're on the far right-hand end, closest to the intersection. Let us, do a review for you. Doesn't cost you anything. You're not obligated to do anything, but I do believe you're going to walk out of there a lot better informed and a lot better aware of what you've got, and if that you might need to make some changes.
Yes, and that's very important. And
Okay.
that is not all, as y'all have seen, that is not all that Cheryl handles is
Right.
life insurance, but
Mhm.
it is a big part of what he handles. So if
Well,
you are in need,
it's one of those things that when you need it, unfortunately, you really need it.
yes.
So,
What is it they
Boy,
say?
yeah.
It's better to need it, to have it and not need it than
Yeah.
need it and not have it.
Yeah, because
one of those things.
life gets totally insane when somebody dies.
Yes.
It's very.
If you don't believe me, talk to the funeral home directors.
Yeah, yes, that is the truth. And I've seen it, I've been in business since 81, 82, and I've had it happen to me numerous times. I've had to deal with, helping folks, and it's not, it's stressful.
Yes.
It's stressful.
Yes.
That's for sure, it is.
Sure is.
Okay.
Well, Cheryl, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Give Cheryl a call. Give your number one more time.
Yes, ma'am. The main office number, 252-316-8166. Usually we're able to answer the phone. If we cannot, please leave a message, and a live human being will call you back in a fairly short period of time.
All right. Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you.
Enjoyed having you.